in the road sector, education sector, health sector, and agriculture sector? Is it going to affect ongoing road projects? Is it going to affect youth employment? Is it going to affect social safety nets for the Ghanaian people? Ghanaians need to know. The minister designates unconvincing responses regarding how he intends to make up for the revenue shortfalls leave us with no choice but to think that he will scrap these taxes but introduce new ones, perhaps more draconian than those he would scrap. We cannot give with his right hand and take back with his left hand. The integrity of the finance minister designate was again called into question when he provided incorrect data in response to a question about some misleading data he had used in 2019. The minister designate clearly sought refuge in IMF data, which turned out to be different from what he presented. When he realized that his own data could not substantiate his case, he claimed he was being charitable by providing a lower figure for the fiscal deficit of 6.1% for 2016, while the IMF's figure was 6.3%.
He's a law professor. When approved, he is going to be the chief enforcer of our laws. When he appeared before the committee and was asked about the legality of this oral, he justified it. He justified the unconstitutional establishment and putting together of people who go about harassing former government officials. We believe that the establishment of that oral committee violates and flies in the face of our constitution. And so one would have expected that a law professor in the person of Dr. Ayin would have condemned it, but rather he justified it. Now his justification is now putting the work of the police CID, IOCO, and special prosecutor and constitutionally established bodies out of business. It is concerning, and we want the people of Ghana to know that no serious country will entertain anything such as this. And so if you are a former government official and you're invited by this so-called oral, our advice to you from the minority is to boycott any invitation from the oral team. We are not going to be part of it because we believe that there are constitutionally established bodies that can investigate any so-called misdeeds of the government. What are they doing? What they are doing is to go about disturbing people.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for staying with us. This is Good Morning Ghana. We're now going to go into the big stories of the day as carried by the major newspapers. But before I do that, as I always do, I would always want to remind you of the goodies that MTN continues to shower on all of us. MTN is encouraging you to encourage your family abroad to send you Momo. And when they do send you money from abroad onto your Momo wallet, you will receive 300 MB for free. And it's free. It's unconditional. It's free. That's it. So you heard me right. Each time you receive money from abroad via Momo, you automatically get 300 MB of data to go online and show your friends and family how you're celebrating Christmas back home. So let's make memories and encourage your loved ones to send you remittances directly to your Momo. More love, more data, just Momo it and have fun and enjoy yourself so you can continue to browse with some 300 MB. My guest for this morning is a man who hasn't been here in a while, but he's also a good friend of Metro TV. He's a good friend of Good Morning Ghana. And he's joined us this morning. I'm talking about the Honorable Inus Afuseni, who is a former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. He's also a former Minister for Roads and Highways. And he's also a private legal practitioner. Remember at some point, he was actually lawyer for Ghana's former president, Jerry John Rawlings, at some point. Yes, that's a fact. Honorable Minister of Sini, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning Ghana. I'm fine, thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Your microphone. Your microphone.
We've come a long way, not
We've
so.
come a long way. Very,
long
very long
way.
At some point, you abandoned me small. But
Yeah,
it's a tactical retreat.
I can understand.
Tactical retreat, But it's always good to see you.
Yeah, thank
It's always
you,
good to
thank
see
you,
you.
thank
And
you, thank you.
Juma Mubarak.
Juma Mubarak.
Yeah,
Juma Mubarak.
And there's another man here. He's a private legal practitioner as well. He's a you can call him a quintessential gentleman. When you invite him for shows, and he would ask who is the other person coming on the line. When he finds the person too aggressive, he won't come. He won't tell you he won't come. When the day comes, you call him and he'll pick. He said he doesn't like aggressive people. He likes issues to be discussed instead of name calling and so on and so forth. It's called Kingsley Amwakwa Buedu. Kingsley Amwakwa Buedu. He's, like I said, a private legal practitioner. He's actually a law lecturer too. And he's a member of the MPP's communications team. It's always a pleasure seeing you. Counsel, how are you, sir?
You're not entitled to call him counsel.
I'm not entitled. I'm not entitled to call him counsel. Why?
Because you're
Are there
not one.
Oh, okay. I have to be a lawyer.
Yes,
to
to
call
call
my
him counsel.
colleague counsel.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
You're not my
but,
learned
why?
friend.
But why are you both treating us like that?
You're not my learned friend.
You call him lawyer.
Same. I can't call him my learned friend.
You can't call him
because
a
I'm not
friend.
one.
Oh, huh.
Oh, Charlie, we have been abusing the word counsel.
Yeah.
Counsel.
Counsel.
Anyway, good morning.
Anyway, Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
You also abandoned me at some point, but God being so
this
good.
issue
you're back.
about me not wanting aggressive
Yes.
people, I think it's not about that. I think there are some people who take shows like, and a very respectful and very elevated platform that you go on. And then people think it's about debating for debating's sake and the loud mouth and the person who said and the person couldn't say something in response. And that is not about that. It's about national development. And so I would not engage in, if you like, just a banter for bantering's sake. It's about, saying things that the powers that be will look at and develop and use that to develop the nation. I think that's what it's about. And so I'm glad when you bring my Leonard Senior to on platforms like that.
You like that?
We have proper discussions of it. Of course, I'll be speaking from my MPP. By the way, I'm a member of the legal directorate of MPP.
Oh, you're also a member of the legal directorate. Yeah.
So I'll be speaking from my center-right position, and he'll also be speaking from his left or maybe center-left.
Ideological leaning.
Yes, and then we would make progress. And at the end of the day, there's a take-home, either by the opposition or the government party, that this is what probably has to be done.
So simply put, any conversation that does not add progress or does not bring progress is not productive, is not fruitful. You're not interested.
No.
Simplicity.
It's just about putting
Let's say it
people,
for
as if
saying
you put two boxes in a ring and say punch away and then let's enjoy ourselves. No, that's not what it is about. I think this is an elevated platform. Good morning, Ghana. It's an elevated platform. So let's attach that seriousness to it.
Anyway, thanks for the vote of confidence you've just passed in us. And we will not disappoint. We will not disappoint. And Kingsley, it's always good to see you. But anyway, so Kingsley, I think that is only proper that we look at some of the appointments that have been made. So far, I believe the president has made 13 regional appointments, 12 ministerial, non-regional, so ministerial, and then I think there's about 11 more to go. With the regional, of course, once it's 16 regions, 13 has been announced, 3 more to go. And there have been some other appointments to in acting capacity, which have also been made. We know that of MIF and then also PMMC. So we'll try and box all of that together. But if you look at page 12 of today's daily graphic, it says President Mahama. Okay, so actually it's page 13. 12 more ministers nominated. Timothy Ngengbe is one of my favorite reporters. He's a very good writer, very, very good writer. He says President John Dramani Mahama has submitted another set of ministerial nominee made up of 9 ministers of state and 3 regional ministers to the Speaker of Parliament for approval. A release issued yesterday, signed by the spokesperson for the President, Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, named the former minority leader and member of Parliament for Tamale South, Haruna Idrisu, as the Minister of Education designate, while the MP for Esonafo South, Eric Opoku, heads to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. An MP for Adakulu Kwame governs Abuja, nominated for the Ministry of Roads and Highways. Also on the list of ministerial nominees are the MPs for Banda Ahmed Ibrahim for the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Techima North, Elizabeth Ofosu Ejare for the Ministry of Trade, Agribusiness and Industry, and Shama Emilia Atta for the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquaculture. I know her name has been always associated with Shama because of her former position as an MC. And then you also have the MP for Krowo, Dr. Anesna Momo Late. She is heading the Gender, Children and Social Protection Ministry. The MP for Ketu South, Abla Jifa Gomashi, Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, while the National Youth Organizer of the NDC, Giorgio Parado, is the Minister Designate for Youth Development and Empowerment, which is actually new. Of course, is in line with the NDC's own manifesto promise to set up a youth ministry, a standalone youth ministry. So it didn't come as a surprise. Now, the other 3 persons who have been nominated as regional ministers are Wilbert Petty Brentum for Western North. There's Adriama Eko Penyin Ochre for Central, and Joseph Nelson for Western Region. Now, one of the major campaign promises President Mahama made to the electorate ahead of the December 7, 2022 elections was to run the leanest government in the Fourth Republic with 60 ministers. Now, the release of the list of 12 nominees brings to 25 the number of ministers designated that have so far been transmitted to the Parliament for approval. The first batch of ministerial nominees the President named comprised Dr. Kesla Toba, Minister of Finance, John Abdullahi Jinapo, Minister of Energy, Dr. Dominic Akuritinga Ayeni, Office of Attorney General and Ministry of Justice. It was followed by the nominations of 10 more persons to serve as regional ministers in the Eastern, North East, Ashanti, Upper East, Ahafo, Savannah, Greater Accra, Northern, Oti, and Volta region. It goes on and on and on and on. And the daily graphic goes ahead to give us the profile of the persons who have been nominated, which I think is a good thing. But of course, if you also even look at the statement that was released by the government itself, it goes ahead to tell us in greater detail who these persons are in terms of what they've achieved and so on and so forth, which I think it's positive, it's good. I don't know, Honorable, most of these guys you know personally. You've either worked with them in one capacity or the other. Would you say that so far you've been impressed? I want us to box this with the other story which has been captured on this. They're capturing the same daily graphic with the Mahama Yariga nomination. Let me put it that way, because I'm sure that it will be confirmed today in Parliament, even though we can state as a matter of fact that it is what it is. So Nana Konadu Adjemine says that the Yariga tipped to be next majority leader in Parliament. The National Democratic Congress Member of Parliament for Boku Central, Mahama Yariga, has been tipped to be the next majority leader of the NDC caucus in the 9th Parliament. He will succeed the outgoing majority leader, Dr. Castle Atufosun, who has been nominated as the Minister of Finance designate. A source at the presidency who requested not to be named said the NDC party would by the close of Friday or early next week come out to announce his appointments. We know for as a matter of fact. It's only a matter of time. I'm sure that maybe today or early next week, as the paper said, we'll get an official confirmation. But what do you make of so far the appointments that have been made so far? Have you been impressed?
Well, let me say good morning to you and your cherished viewers and my colleague, friend, and at the bar,
Kinsley.
I mean, it's always a pleasure. I mean, he's right. When you appear on a platform like this, you want to discuss national issues.
Right.
You want to espouse or discuss what your party is doing in terms of the general development of this country. And so it's not, we don't come here because we want to talk. We come here because we have something to offer.
Right.
So so when you invited me, I looked to see who was coming.
Very important.
And Fridays are always important show days.
Extremely.
So I was not surprised that they had elected him to come.
Yeah.
So I'm sure today we are going to discuss matters dispassionately to put across our views and see how we convince. And I'm hoping,
except that,
I'm hoping to bring him to my side.
Except
today.
that when politicians say they want to talk about an issue dispassionately, I'm usually very suspicious because they can never take away their political leanings. So I don't know how the dispassionate can work. But anyway, let's see.
So you wait until...
So be here with day.
So you be here with
Be here with day.
Wait until we finish.
Oh,
So this is the nominations of the ministers
Yeah.
is consequent upon the promise made by John Dramani Mahama when he was campaigning. I mean, John Rawls says that John Rawls or John Stuart Mill says that is the debate and the deliberations before elections and not the voting.
Right.
That actually manifests the importance of democracy. Now, so what was the debate before the elections? The debate was that we were running an overbloated ministry, or ministers, or government, and that there were calls on His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to reduce the number of ministers. I mean, this call became loudest when civil society joined and said, look, I don't think that as a country as small as Ghana, we need to be running that large number of ministers.
It started from 125 and it was pruned down to 85.
85.
Yeah.
Now, so they justified, Nana Akufo-Addo justified
He's
why...
a man in a hurry. He said he was in a man in a hurry. And
But I warned him that he will hit his leg against an obstacle and fall, and that's what has happened. I warned him.
Prophet Inusa.
Because yes, I mean when you appoint too many ministers, it affects the efficiencies of the ministers.
Right.
I mean rule conflicts will come up, and so it was bound to happen. And some ministers just sat in office for the 4 years or 8 years without doing much, and so the call became loudest, and the major political parties then took the matter seriously.
Yeah.
John Dramani Mahama was first to come out. He said, well, so I will run a lean government. I will run 60 ministers. In fact, he since said, I mean, in discussions with experts and people who advise government, I mean, they have since said that, in fact, 60 is 60.
Right.
And for them, 60 even includes deputy ministers.
Yeah.
So clearly, but when you look at the Constitution, deputy ministers are not ministers.
Yeah.
They're deputy ministers.
Yeah.
The Constitution describes it so clearly. But he says 60 is 60, includes deputy ministers.
Yeah.
And so that's why you hear stories like level 35, 25 gone, 35. And so when the call became loudest, and John Dramani Mahama took it, the MPP flag bearer too took it. He said, okay, if we're going to run 60, I will run 40.
Right.
And all made sense to me. Because you see, when you look at the Constitution, as a guide,
Bamia had actually promised 50.
50.
Yeah.
As a guide, it says cabinet must be not less than 11 or so ministers and 19.
Cabinet, yeah.
90.
Cabinet.
Yeah.
And so cabinet, it says a small number of people to the cabinet. Taking that, even though the Constitution says the president may appoint as many ministers as may be necessary, but be guided by that constitutional provision that limits cabinet to 11 to 19, you say that we could actually reduce the number of ministers.
Yeah.
And in fact, our public and civil service are so robust that if we put them to work, I mean, they should be able to complement what the ministers will be doing in their ministries. Again, what are the ministers doing? Ministers are just heads of policy. They ensure that government policy is implemented.
That's all.
They guide the workers, the public servants and civil servants to implement government policy. I mean, so it begs the question, why do we appoint a large number of people and create the impression as if they are going to work? Mm-hmm. They are going into the drains to work. They are going to the gutters to work. The civil servants are to do that. Okay? Now,
but this question you've just asked isn't the... Sorry for rudely interrupting, but this question you just asked about, why do we appoint so many people into government? I mean, I think the answer is obvious, isn't it? But please go ahead. When you're done with... Yes, it's obvious.
The answer is obvious.
Yes, the answer is
that's
obvious.
why John Dramani Mahama is faced with a challenge. The answer is obvious. So when you have a constitutional provision, Article 78(1), saying that a majority of your ministers must come from Parliament, and then you have an absolute majority in Parliament. You have the 2/3 majority in Parliament, and that's absolute because this Parliament, as constituted, can do anything without the presence of the minority. So it's absolute, and so if majority of the ministers are to come from Parliament, it puts a pressure on the president to appoint. And I think that both Kufuor and Nana Akufo-Addo justified why they were appointing so many ministers on the basis of the fact that there was too much work to be done. But the real reason was that they had to meet the reasonable and legitimate, the legitimate aspirations of the people, right, or expectations of the people, in the sense that the people had campaigned, gone to the communities, to the villages to campaign, and the party had won power. So Kufuor and Nana Akufo-Addo felt compelled to reward those who had campaigned for them to win power.
Of course, he later came to apologize for the size of the government. He apologized to Ghanaians.
Yeah. Now, but the pressure.
Yeah, the pressure.
John Dramani Mahama, you know, a manifesto promise is a covenant with the people. So he had covenanted with the people that he was going to do 60. And the people brought him into office believing that he could do 60. And so he's going to stick to the 60 and deliver.
Did you hear the arguments that are being canvassed by persons like the former MP for what's the name? Oh, this former MP, Asantehene North.
Yeah, Andy Appiah-Kubi.
Andy Appiah-Kubi.
Yes.
And a few others who felt that, look, this thing must not be cast in stone.
It must.
If there's every justification for the president to add one or two, why not? You see, there's something you say during campaign, but there's also the reality check, so that you come to government and you realize that, look, you need maybe one or two, and you can give a compelling justification why you need one or two. Why not? So I'll give you a typical example. The president promised to do, and you're right, spot on. He promised 60. So it's a pact he has with the people, a social contract. But you'll also realize that he has so far nominated 25. There was some calculation I did the last time. So if each of these, so there's 16 regional ministers. So if you take the 16 regional ministers out, that leaves you with 34. Okay. Now, if
34, he's gazetted by executive instrument 23.
Yes, 23. Good. 23 now, ministers. This 23... So
if you take 23 from 34, he's left with 11 to play around with.
Good.
Deputies.
Now, here's the thing. Out of these 23 ministries, if each of these ministries is going to get a deputy, that alone takes you to 46.
So he's saying that he's communicating that not all the ministers will require deputies.
Okay, so please go ahead.
so that's the communication, exactly. Actually. Yeah. So and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it will be the first time.
And we need to. It's not the first time. His party, Buzia, when he won elections.
Oh, okay.
6 months into his administration, we didn't have ministers.
No, I'm talking about for the first time we're going to have.
Well,
some ministers without
a deputy.
Some ministers without deputies.
Yes. Even if you put regional aside.
Even in the last administration.
Every minister had a deputy.
Oh, every minister.
Every minister under Nana Akufo-Addo had a deputy.
Oh, see,
there's not even one. Just name that. As far as I'm concerned, it will be the first
job
time.
For the boys. Job for the boys.
But is it possible for a ministry to function optimally without a deputy?
Yes.
Oh, really? I mean, you've been there, so I don't know what you're talking about. Okay,
exactly. Yeah. There are some ministers which will need deputies.
Okay.
Finance, for instance.
Okay, you can't do without a deputy.
Local government, for instance. You need a deputy.
Education.
You need a deputy. Health,
Attorney
you need
General.
Attorney General, you might need a deputy.
You might. You can't do without.
You might need a deputy. Why? Okay. There are principals and state attorneys all over, littered all over the place. How many times does a deputy attorney general go to court?
Oh, I get it.
So you might need a deputy. If you want a deputy, fine.
Yeah.
But no.
But you don't need a deputy to be able to function.
You don't need it because all the structure is there. So you have the attorney general.
Yeah.
And for the minister for justice, that's a political appointment. But you have a deputy attorney general as the leader of the bar.
Okay.
I mean, the attorney general as the leader of the bar. Okay. And all the guys in the attorney general's office are lawyers, or most of them are lawyers who go to court. And they go to court in the name of the Republic of Ghana. Right. So tell me how many times that the attorney general himself go to court, unless there are very high profile cases.
Right. So the Ministry of Justice the Ministry of Justice can do without a deputy. I think that's the point you're making. Okay, so let me allow you to go ahead generally with your thoughts about
gender ministry can
go without a deputy.
A deputy.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes,
That's interesting.
yes.
All right. So please go ahead.
Fisheries Ministry can do without a deputy.
Okay.
So clearly there are ministries that can do without
All right.
a deputy. Tourism
Can go without a deputy.
can go without a deputy.
All right.
I'm just my thinking.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
but
fine.
it's important for John Dramani Mahama, the president, to stick to the promise
Right.
and the covenant with the people.
Okay.
You see, we want to restore confidence,
Public confidence
public confidence
in our polity.
And so, yes, Apia Kubi might have
He may do
reasons
well.
to believe
Okay.
that you can vary, but when you vary, it shakes the foundation of the political system and the trust in politicians.
Okay. And especially when you have a party that says it intends to reset.
Yes. So no, you don't vary.
Okay.
We have to go with it. So, and you can see clearly, because he doesn't want to vary, and because he knows that he's going to do one term, he's carefully choosing the people. Now, experience counts, competence are the hallmarks. So the first three ministers, you will see clearly that they were deputy ministers. Three of them were deputy ministers, understudied their ministers, occupied positions in parliament, discharged themselves equitably in parliament. No one has reasons to believe that these people are not competent. And they displayed their their understanding of the various portfolios that have been given so well that they won applause by many people in this country. I was surprised that Gideon Baku said Atu's statements lacked clarity of thought.
Yeah.
In fact, at the point I actually clapped watching Atu on TV. I actually clapped for him. He was so, and again, let me digress a little. Council, in 1969, under the 1969 Constitution, there was no requirement for vetting. Why? Because only members of parliament could be ministers of state. So if a person is qualified to be a member of parliament, that person is otherwise qualified to be a minister.
That's right. Yeah.
That's the Westminster system. Yeah. So you don't hear vetting.
True.
In 1979, we went 360 or what? 180.
180. Yeah.
180.
To the American
so
system. Yes.
Strictly presidential system of government. So if you were a member of parliament and you were nominated to be a minister, you had to resign your position. And you recall the case of Harry Sawyer.
Yeah.
Okay?
True.
Because those who were going to be ministers were not members of parliament. If you look at the formulation of the 1979 Constitution, they had to have prior approval of parliament. And they had to be, qualified to be members of parliament. Yeah. Eligibility for members of parliament is provided in the Constitution. So a person who is not a member of parliament, if he's nominated to be a minister, must meet the eligibility criteria.
Right.
That's all. And then the 1979 Constitution was truncated. Then we fused the 1969 governance architecture with the 1979 governance architecture, and that reflected in Article 78(1).
Right.
He must be a member of parliament or qualified
To be.
to be.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, if you are a member of parliament, what clearly are they doing by saying that they are vetting you and asking all those questions?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Haven't they forgotten our historical antecedents? Are we mixing our governance structure and doing things in a way that is making the presidential system of government and the requirement of people to come from outside parliament to overshadow the requirements of those in parliament? So I was really, really taken aback when I sat for about 6 hours listening to Afenyomarkin, what was he seeking to demonstrate? Was he seeking to test the nominee's understanding of the policies of the NDC? Or was he testing his competence?
Maybe both.
No.
Maybe both.
So, the law doesn't set the parameter for confidence. Competence cannot be a subjective understanding or assessment of a person. That's what I've argued while I was in Parliament. That if we have boxed the 1969 experience with the 1979 experience in the 1992 Constitution, then it behoves on Parliament to set out the criteria. Because vetting and questioning cannot be alleged.
True.
What are we looking for? So the Parliament should have set the regulations, should have passed the regulations to make sure that in vetting, pursuant to Article 78.1, that these are the things that we are looking to establish. So if we are looking to establish, I don't see competence actually. Yeah. If you are looking to establish competence, then you might. Okay? And the question of competence is a political question. So if the president appoints people who are manifestly incompetent, he's putting his re-election at risk. So it's a political question.
Right.
So the people will hold any president accountable if that president puts people who are manifestly incompetent in office. So I was surprised, to be honest with you, that the questions continued and continued and continued and continued, and you never knew what Afenyomarkin was trying to. I didn't get what he was trying to establish, but he was within his right, because as a leader, again, by convention, leaders don't have the number of questions they have to ask. They can ask questions ad infinitum.
Yeah.
Again, governor-wise, right. I mean, it becomes a problem. But clearly,
right.
Dominic Ayini, my professor, he knows. He was my professor of regulation when I went back to Legon to do my LLM in oil and gas.
Okay.
He took me in regulation. And he's a distinguished professor, and you know, he's a distinguished professor of regulation. And his understanding of the law. I mean, sometimes in Parliament, as chairman of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, I will bounce off an idea, and then we'll argue it, and arrive at a consensus that this is what it means. And then, so there is a lot that you can,
yeah.
And actually he discharged himself equitably. He has 30 years teaching experience as a professor of law. Deputy Attorney General. The diligence he attaches to his work.
And actually runs his own law firm.
Yeah, runs his own law firm. You know. Then you have Jinapor. Amazing gentleman.
Anyway, he's not doctor.
He's not Dr. Jinapor.
Yes.
Oh,
I didn't know till during the vetting, and one of the
He's
a
has
member
been
of the,
conferred on him.
yes, we conferred on him. Yeah, he's been, but for some reason he doesn't. I'm yet to check.
Maybe he's gone for the
Valedictorian one.
well, yes, but he's not yet been confirmed. Maybe he's gone
we'll
for
have
it.
to check.
Yes,
We'll have
yes,
to check.
yes.
Yeah.
Again, that's a
But
feather
it doesn't
in.
take anything.
No, but that's a feather in his
In
cap.
his cup, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now he went to the when I was going to the deputy to the Minister of Energy, a distinguished elder of the party told me, "You know, sir, this is a tremendous opportunity for you. You're a lawyer. By the time you leave the Ministry of Energy, when you speak on energy matters, people should believe that you are an energy expert." And that, I mean, for the lands and natural resources, my master's level thesis, master's level studies was basically natural resources. Oil and gas is natural resources.
Yeah.
So that is different. But clearly, Jinapor took the advice seriously. And that's why clearly now when he speaks
on authority.
Authority.
Yeah, he speaks on authority.
Kasselatu Forsen. I told you already. Now, Abuja governs. For all the time that I was at the Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Roads and Highways, he was the ranking. He was the chairman of the Roads and Highways Committee.
Yeah.
Then, when we lost power, he came down to ranking. He knows all about the ministry. In fact, when we lost power and went back to Parliament, there were certain things and information that the Akufo-Addo's government was, things that Akufo-Addo's government was engaging, that I didn't have a clue about. Abuja, as ranking, made them available to me. So he's a natural successor to me, and he's a natural appointee of the Ministry of Roads and Highways. Hey, Eric Poko.
Right.
Eric Poko, the loquacious Eric Poko, the orator. I mean, if you listen to him, you cannot fail to be amazed by the way he communicates.
His in-depth knowledge when it comes to agriculture.
Agriculture.
Generally.
I do not know Agnes Na Momo Lati very well.
Yeah.
But reading his CV, he's actually a doctor.
Yeah, she's a doctor.
In African studies.
Yeah.
In leadership.
Yeah.
So you can see clearly Gumaji.
Abla Gumaji. Creative art.
She's from that industry.
Even though there are people who feel that if you look at past appointments, persons who have been appointed from the creative arts have not really lived up to expectations. And so let's tame our expectations. The fact that she's from the creative arts, family or community does not in itself mean that she would necessarily deliver the goods as to our expectations.
But that is the beauty of the game.
Okay.
That Gumaji is very much aware that previous appointees
have not been impressive.
She needs to break the jinx.
That's an interesting point.
Yes.
That's an interesting
Yes.
point. That's an interesting point.
So you have Emilata from Shama.
Oh, she's been around for a long time.
I'm sure His Excellency John Dramani Mahama had a good laugh when the name came out for fisheries. Because Shama is known for,
for fishing, the fishing community.
Right. And so who is better placed to go there to look at the fisheries subsector and aquaculture subsector than Emilia Atta. Oparadu, the youth leader, youth development. This is an onerous responsibility. Onerous, and he's a lawyer. He's very untested in terms of holding public office.
Right.
But that's the challenge, and he must rise up to that challenge. My brother Haruna Idrisu, versatile Haruna Idrisu, he wants results.
Okay.
And everywhere they put him, there's some fire in his belly. He wants to achieve. He wants to accomplish. Now he's been made the Minister for Education, which is a very huge portfolio. And I know the fire in his belly will propel him to achieve.
Right.
There's a lot of fire in his belly, and he will achieve.
Right.
Ahmed is the deputy chief whip of the NDC in Parliament presently.
Yeah.
He's been deputy whip for the 8th Parliament, and he's in the 7th Parliament as well.
Okay.
And so he's got a tremendous experience in matters of local government. He used to talk a lot on local government when we were in Parliament. Chieftaincy and religious affairs have been added.
Okay.
And I have no doubt that his experience in Parliament will guide him.
Right.
Ajari Elizabeth, she was a Minister of Tourism in the previous administration of John Dramani Mahama. She did very, very well. As Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, collaborated with her in matters of tourism and how the face of Ghana could change. Okay. I mean, when you are flying into any country outside Africa, when you are approaching the airport, it gives you an impression of the development stage of that country. Ours is not so.
Okay.
When you are landing, you see bare land and whatnot. So Ajari came up with the concept of building an enclave, the beach enclave,
Okay.
where planes coming in and leaving will see structures like is there at the, and that's behind it. That's the beach.
Yeah.
Behind you,
Yeah.
see structures like that to give an impression
Yeah.
of what the country is, how the
Yeah.
country is developing.
Right.
I have no doubt that she will discharge her duties very equitably, and that she has the capacity to do what is expected of her.
Right.
We also realize that John Dramani Mahama, apart from George Opare Ado, has concentrated on meeting the requirement in Article 78.
Right.
A majority of the ministers of state
Okay.
must come from Parliament.
From Parliament.
So all these appointments, including the previous 3 appointments, in terms of sector ministers,
Yeah.
have been from Parliament, except George Opare Ado.
Right.
The regional ministers too, you can see an array of expertise
Okay.
being put in place to manage the affairs of the regions. What I can tell them is that when they assume office, John Dramani Mahama will not tolerate a misstep. They must be diligent, they must be focused and bent
Okay.
on discharging their responsibility, not only to the admiration of the president,
Okay.
but to the admiration of the citizens of this country.
Let me. I'll pick your thoughts too. I mean, I'm sure some of them are your friends, either closely or distantly, and I want to know what you think about the appointments to the various portfolios that we've just seen as we have displayed on the screens. But our very good friend Simmons, who is the head of the Parliamentary Press Corps, just drew my attention to something based on the interaction we had earlier about previous heads of the Creative Art or Tourism Ministry, or whichever nomenclature was given it based on which president was there. He draws my attention to the fact that what has actually happened in the past is that the deputies have come from the creative arts community or space, and that the heads have them. This is the first time somebody from the creative arts community is actually being made to head such a ministry. So, Simmons, thanks for drawing my attention. And I also did, just did my own quick research, and I came to one conclusion. So, you look at someone like Elizabeth Ofosue-Jare. She's not from that sector. There's one Martin Jakun Oti. I don't remember him being being a part of that community. There's Akwasena Danswa. Not an actress, not a musician, nothing.
Journalist.
Then yes, a journalist. And then there's Katrina Feku. So yes, Simmons, you're right. Thanks for that quick. How do you call it? I will draw my attention to that. Anyway. I was going to say counsel. Can you imagine?
Lawyer. Say lawyer.
Okay, lawyer. Lawyer. Have you so far been impressed with the appointments that have been made?
And
what do you generally make of it? And then again, the issue that Honorable raised earlier about vetting and just fell short of asking whether indeed this whole vetting exercise is even important in the first place, and that we may have to at some point as a country take a second look at it. Somebody actually wrote a very interesting article yesterday and posted it on Facebook when I read it, and the person was raising pretty much the same issues that you've raised, that if the person is qualified to become a member of parliament, why are you now beginning to question the person's competences if the person is made a minister? Even though I have my own disagreements, but maybe it's a conversation we can have at another time if there's time. Because I feel that sometimes public validation is also important. The person sits in front of a committee, questions are being asked. You want the public to be assured that the appointment that you have made is actually a good one, and that it's not just a subjective view of the president, and that here's the person. You go and ask the questions. You also go and test the person's ability to do the job, the person's competence. And that's what appointments committee seeks to do, sort of.
So all these appointments, just a minute. Have you ever seen them disqualify a member of parliament?
They don't. By convention, they don't. But
it's not convention.
I feel that.
It's not convention. So the first time we had a disqualification was Scipio Gabriel.
Yes, I feel that.
Because he was not a registered voter.
I feel that when persons appear before the committee and they do not do a good job, and the public actually, or the public sentiment, the general public sentiment is that the person is a substandard appointment. I think the president would have to just yank the person off. Because you see, governance is also about optics. It's also about perception. So
okay, no, I'm just,
but
I just
can
get
have,
the historical antecedents.
No, that's it. I get it. I get it. But the vetting matter and whether we still need to be vetting people in Parliament is a whole conversation we can have, and it will be a very interesting debate. But Honourable, what do you think? So far?
So thank you very much. I'm not honourable. He is honourable.
You are.
Okay.
Well, not in that sense.
Kingsley is fine. Kingsley is fine. Kingsley is fine.
And I must say good morning to my learned senior. I've not met you on set before. This is the first time. And I really like the fact that I was meeting him because I like his analysis besides the politics. Let me touch on a few of them.
Okay.
I think for the lawyers amongst them, the practitioners, we know them. And we know, amongst us lawyers, we know these are the lawyers of the lawyers. And one of such persons is Dominic Ayine.
Yeah.
And I must say that I know him personally because he's my former boss. I used to work at Ayine and Feli then. Now it's Ayine and Partners.
Okay. Yeah. You mentioned
I used to be a senior associate at Ayine and Feli. And that's my first ever boss since I practiced law in Ghana.
Okay.
And before now, I have my own law firm, and I also run my law firm. And there are a lot of examples I draw from him in the way I also run my law firm. I think he did great in terms of being very personable. He could walk to his office anytime and ask a question. And one thing about Dominic is that he has 2 masters and a PhD. His PhD is in international trade. And he was very instrumental in writing the trade laws of Ghana. All right, and he's an excellent person when it comes to trade. But then besides that, every other topic you go to him, natural resources, but in Ghana, we've separated petroleum from natural resources. So there's Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Then we have a Ministry of Energy, including petroleum. And anywhere,
excellent.
Anywhere you go. So Dominic's cerebral strength is not acknowledged enough. And so I have high hopes of him. In terms of, I can say so much about Dominic in terms of outside the legal practice, his relationship with you. Each time, and for a long time, we used to have the same barber. And each time I went there, he would be the first person to acknowledge me, hey, senior counsel. And that's how personable and affable Dominic is. And let me add this as well, his dress sense, superb. Did you see the CUT wall to the place? Superb.
you mean that's true.
You mean or a guy?
Or a guy. And let me throw a punch at Dominic. I don't classify Dominic as a socialist. He's a champagne socialist. I'm using his Jaguar.
This is going to dilute socialism. I don't know why you do that.
I'm using his Jaguar. But besides that, Dominic is, superb. Superb. I'm very glad I worked with him when I came to Ghana. A bit drawback as to some of the things, some of the answers he gave, and I think we'll come to that in terms of the legality of oral. And then I think this is also part of the manifesto, but I think the whole country, or from my part, we took our eyes off that part where they're talking about community tribunals system. And I think probably there'll be another day for us to go into it, to look at the appropriateness of it. And because the manifesto, Dominic was talking about that and seeming to justify that. And one thing I must say is, yes, the manifesto is a campaign promise, and therefore it's a social contract, so to say. But it is not a contract in a sense as we know it. There's no the elements of a contract and all that. And so when it's necessary to depart from that, I think a good leader should be able to communicate same very well to the public so he doesn't lose the public. The public doesn't become disenfranchised or disillusioned about the promises you made to us. It's the fact that it is not appropriate this time to implement it, or it is not grounded in law. Now, the difficulty for NDC would be to tell us it's not grounded in law, which is not. It's not grounded in law. It's not in our constitution. In fact, it was abolished okay, minus the regional tribunals, which is still on the statute books. But even then, there's a commission that says that let's merge them with the high courts. And so for someone to be talking about that during the vetting, you need to impress on us that the traditional court systems are not being able to absorb the cases that must go or that used to go to the tribunal system. Because some of us, we were around in 79 coup and 81. All right. We saw a lot of things. So the moment we hear community tribunal, is already invoking.
You mean it invokes bad memories?
Those abhorrent memories.
Right.
And it was so unfair. And it's out of this that you have cases that are not historical. Ex-parte Shackelford and Malere Senior will know all these, where some judges set it aside rightly, and it resulted in some of them, they are bust in the front of the Supreme Court. And then they are now human rights heroes. But we did not need to walk that path. You see, so yes, manifesto is good, but we shouldn't allow, you see, the Article 125 says that the justice emanates from the people, and it's in their name that we run. All right, always dispense justice. Yes. But it should be done in such a way. There's a reason why you need to be qualified to become a lawyer, needs a lot more to be qualified to become a judge and whatnot. There's a reason why. But the moment we are allowing, in order to assuage, as it were, the public or the mob, and I'm using that advisedly, the mob to dispense justice, we may get certain things. And if you look at the constitution of, not the national constitution, but how the panel of a tribunal is constituted. The chairman is a lawyer, but some members are not lawyers. All right. Now, in our legal system, it is in family tribunal and child protection and custody and things like that that you have a panel. And if the members of that panel are maybe a retired headmistress or people of that ilk who understand issues. Those are, but the way we are looking at the way we empaneled the community tribunal and things like that, I mean, it was bad. And it sends down for some of us, and I believe Malene Senior has a lot to say for that period. It sends down shivers down our spine. And so I think that we should be careful about that. And we need more justification why. And indeed, it looks like he is going to set those courts. But if you look at the laws, it is the Chief Justice who is allowed to come out with courts. That's why the Chief Justice will come out with specialized courts, and it will insist that courts must sit on a Saturday or a Sunday so that we fulfill the 48 hours requirement for someone to be in police custody. And I remember I was in court on the 31st, and on the 1st of January for this current election, there was an election, matters concerning this election. And we were in court. We sat in court for a very long time, until about 4:30. It was because we have been compelled by the Chief Justice. And so we need to look at it, the fine details of it. And for my view, I think the public tribunal is not needed. My government built, and when I say my government, when my party was in power, we built 110 courts, unprecedented. All right? And if it requires more, and Malene Senior will attest to this fact that between Ayi Mensah, that toll booth, all right, it used to be that the only court, if you are coming to Accra, the only court you met was Medina. It was a district court. Then, you get to the trade fair, there's a district court, then Accra. And the land court, then it was in the current district court, and it was above the fast, just around the fast track. There's another building there.
Okay.
It was full, and it was only 3 land courts. Full. Anna President Atta Mills, when he built the new Carco complex, and I drove my heart to him for doing that. Now, land cost became 12, and it is still full. All right. Now we have a court in Adenta. We have two district courts, 2 circuit courts, 2 high courts, and the high courts, they are so full that we are now running a shift system. So that should tell you that there are cases that are going to come. So let's expand and resource the court system as they are now, rather than go and create another, if you like, pariah. And we all know that incident of the tribunal system when His Excellency Judge Rawlings did not believe in the court system, so he set up his own court, running pariah. And then the Bar Association decided they would not attend, they would boycott those courts. All right? And they put certain people who were, if you like, cadets, who had studied a bit of law, or just come out of law as committee chairman of those tribunals. So I think we should move away from that, and there has to be justification as to why the tribunals. So besides that, I as I said, Dominic is such a versatile person that is very strong with trade and natural resources. And I also depart from my learned friend's position that the AG may not need a deputy. I think the AG, looking at the kind of cases coming, all right, the AG would need a deputy or even maybe another one, maybe. Yes, there are lots of cases. There's a reason why the Attorney General's Department do not go to courts like Circuit Court and District Court, even though that's their mandate. It is because there are not enough lawyers. And so they've relinquished that to police prosecutors. At times, I meet police prosecutors in court, and when it's not my turn, I may be whispering, ask this question. Because at times, they can object to something, and the whole court will be in stitches, you see. And some are good, some are trained, some are good. And a lot of police officers are now LLB students or have been called to the bar, so that's good. Now, if we have to increase the number of lawyers in the AG's department, so be it. But until then, do you realize that when Dominic was the deputy AG, he did a lot of the cases, right? Because the AG has a lot of other things to look at, a lot of international engagements, a lot of things to look at. And looking at the kind of Ghanaian that we are getting now, the Ghanaian now will easily go to court. We look at the constitutional matters that are getting filed in the Supreme Court nowadays. All right. So I think for the AG department, we still need a deputy, a very seasoned deputy, because there are a lot. And now you see, everything is being tested, which I'm very happy about, because for us lecturers, it becomes easy when you are now imparting knowledge in the classroom, making reference to Ghanaian cases as opposed to Nigerian cases and UK cases and US cases. So I think we need a deputy AG or even another one. But because he's come out to say 60 and he's bound by that, and you said how much is left? 11?
That is 11 of the ministers.
Yeah.
35 in all. 11 to play around with as deputy ministers.
Yes. So his hands are tied. And I know personally, I know a lot of NDC members who are very qualified. All right. And by the way, when I say someone is qualified, let me draw this caveat. It is not because a person has a PhD. It is not because a person, especially this one, it is not because a person can express himself well with the king's language now. I used to say Queen's.
English
King's.
below.
You see, it's not because of that. Yeah. You could have someone who would come and probably would not have the gift of the gab like myself and my senior. But he is a very good material for the ministry. So we need to look at that. And I think probably there should be proper terms of reference with attorney vetting and things of this sort. You see, so that we know, and the public must begin to understand that English is just a language. Yes, the more you're able to express yourself well, the better you're able to communicate. But it is not necessarily because you are intelligent.
Yes.
And intelligence also should not be limited to classroom intelligence. All right? Because for a lot of the ministries, interpersonal skills is very necessary.
Very key.
Now, there are chief directors and people of that caliber in the ministry. Some of them have been there for 20-something years. Some of them have been there for 40 years. Imagine if they started working at age 20 and they're still there. All right? So, you should be able to bring all those opinions on board and own it and carry it along and carry them along. That takes a lot of skills and interpersonal skills and maturity. Emotional maturity, of course, intelligence, IQ, but emotional maturity and adversity quotient.
Yeah.
You see, so we need a lot of that. So having laid this my own personal, if you like, standards of qualification.
Okay.
I'll look at some of them. Number 9 on the list, the ministers of state, minister of trade, agribusiness, and industry.
Before you get there,
Yes.
you know, the matter of this public tribunal,
Yes.
public tribunal system, it's come up for a discussion. And this week, even here on Good Morning Ghana, most of our guests who appeared on the show talked about it. They raised it. Some of them raised concerns. But when you listen to the public discussion or the public discussion of this matter, you get two different schools of thought.
Right.
So you raise, for instance, the fact that for you, persons who were victims of the public tribunal system, for them, when they hear about a public tribunal system, all that comes to mind.
Not just them, but those of us who saw.
Who saw,
what was
and yeah,
happening.
those who saw and those who experienced it. All that comes to mind is the kinds of horrific experiences that they had to go through. And of course, for those of you also saw, you saw those. But then, when you listen to Dominic Ayine during the vetting, it was a matter that came up. And John Darko, I don't know that he's your friend, the Swami MP.
Yes.
Yes, John Darko posed that question directly to him. You know, and then also, of course, Bafuwa.
They're all my friends.
They're all your
my
friends,
colleagues,
yeah.
yes.
I
We used
mean-
to lecture together anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, so that matter came up. And you heard Dominic Ayine talk about how the public tribunal system was not necessarily meant to violate the rights of persons. And that in cases where rights of
Sorry, I
persons...
didn't hear you.
He said the setting up of the public tribunal system was not meant to violate or to infringe on the rights of anybody. You know,
Yes.
as Chapter 5 in your own constitution would kick against.
Yes.
But he also agrees that, yes, there were some excesses at the time.
There were a lot of excesses.
Okay. Now he says he intends to set up a public tribunal act. And I'm sure you heard that too. A public tribunal act. And the whole idea is to deal with some of these challenges that were accompanied or associated with the public tribunal system. So that so the act will, for instance, tell you the extent to which you can do A, B, C, D. You know, I don't know if that sort of assuages your feelings and your concerns about the public tribunal system. But then there's actually, even furthermore, he talks about the fact that somebody like Gregory Afoko. So Gregory Afoko was not tried in the tribunal. He was tried in the traditional court system, and you can correct me. As we speak, Gregory Afoko is still in the prisons, even though a court has actually asked that the guy should be granted bail.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so if the principle is that a system which has been put in place to protect the rights of persons is abusing that system, so that let's not revisit it. Remind you that I think it was Article 142 or so that talks about public tribunal.
Article 142 is the regional tribunals.
Regional tribunals.
Yes.
So it is in there. It has not been scrapped.
Precisely.
Okay.
Let me come in here.
So somebody, so the argument is that I am only revamping what is in there. It is not like I'm bringing a new law.
No.
And that if you don't want it, then let's use a referendum. Let's use the how do you call it? Let's go through the right processes and take it out.
You
Of
see,
course,
let me deal with this.
we're thinking about amending, or how do you call it, taking a second look at the constitution anyway. So we may want to add that. I don't want to get it. You get the argument that I'm making.
I get the argument you're
Yes.
making. And unfortunately for the argument you've made, not for
Okay,
you, the
right.
argument you've made,
Yeah.
you have said that the court
Yeah.
has granted him bail.
Bill. Yeah.
So the court is finished with his job. It's functions official.
Right.
All right?
Right.
It is those who are supposed to effect that order of the court that we have a problem with. And
Yeah.
and for
So here we cannot blame the court.
the court, exactly. For me, any infringement of the rights of an individual is not good. And so I'm not saying this to say that, you see, I empathize with Gregory Afeko and the likes. So, but we are talking strictly about the court. So this cannot be a miscarriage of justice for which we have to set up a public tribunal.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if the public tribunal also grants bail and it's not carried out, we are back to square one. For me, I think rather than set up public tribunals, when that is lifted off a statute book, minus the regional tribunals, and even the regional tribunals, it was an NDC government committee of inquiry, I think it was Professor Atamils, that said that let's merge it with the high courts. And it's the same NDC government that has come, and they haven't justified why we set up the public tribunal. And then, if it was just the regionals that he was going to talk about, then he doesn't need any public tribunal act. But now it's going to be community tribunal. You know, it built up to the regional tribunal, all right,
Yeah.
which is an equivalent of a high court.
Yeah.
And therefore, after that, they have a right of appeal and whatnot. Okay. So I think that's a dangerous path.
Okay.
We should tread on. We should avoid those.
Okay.
You see, I'm struggling to talk about it from this angle, but I think I must bring it in. Anything that looks populist
Okay.
at this moment in time,
Okay.
we should begin to toe it down.
Okay.
There are a lot of populist agenda, all right, because a lot have been said to the public, a lot to gain political capital. A lot have been said, but at some point, reality sets in. So anything that is elongating that populist agenda, where people are going to public edifices and demanding, I have videos here demanding that all of you should resign and it's my government in power and so my people should be employed. And I'm thinking, imagine you went to the AG's department and said all of them should walk out and NDC people should come, or any of the specialists, it doesn't even need to be a specialist agency.
But Kingsley, this
So
is
anything-
the social contract they have with Ghanaians.
Yes, but
based
if
on
you
which
don't say,
Ghanaians have voted
it
for
doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that.
It's a good idea.
It doesn't mean that if you win power, all workers should get out for NDC members or MPP members for that matter.
Is that what is going to happen with the
And that is
revamp-
what
with the
I'm saying. That
revamping of the
I am saying
cabinet
that
system?
that is already in the system, and you need to calm your voters and those who voted for you and those who have high. I mean, I had some wild expectations before this vote.
All right.
Wild expectations. Where someone says that there are some properties around the range and cantonments. The moment they win the election, he's going to take over 3 of them. He and his wife going to take over 3. And it was laughable until after the elections. I was driving from Asinfosu, where my constituency, back to Accra on the Sunday. Thankfully, I had no MPP paraphernalia hanging in my car. Thankfully. Then I got to Accra, Hacho Road. Then, you see, and okay, the same day, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks. But now let's begin to toll, as I said, anything which is populist, so that reality sets in. And we do good for Ghana.
Okay.
I think the Mahama that was sworn in, and I need to say President Mahama, because I respect that office and him as a person as well. The President Mahama that was sworn in 2012, if you look at that person and the President Mahama who was sworn in on the 7th of 2025, there's a world of a difference.
Yeah.
He's going into this. He's been there before. He sees the weight of expectations. And the second term, when he's fought so hard to get it, it's about legacy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yes, you must please your party and blah, blah, but it's about your personal. He sees that. That's why it's taking him a while. All right. So anything that would reduce that, well, it inures to my benefit as an NPP person. But
Okay.
we have to think of Ghana first. All right.
Okay.
So anything that's populist, let's begin to toe it down. Now back to Honorable Liz Ofosu-Ejare. I call her Liz. We were classmates at KNUST then.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I wish her all the best. I think, and she will do well. She's a legal practitioner. I think she runs her own law firm, I think. And on our platform, KNUST platform, we're wishing her all the best. And so, Liz, if you're watching me, all the best from our year group at KNUST. However, Liz, moving from tourism to trade is a world of a difference. I think for a long time, trade has been the most important ministry. Now I think it's overtaken by finance.
Yeah.
Because trade is where, and even when you're saying you are going to do your 24-hour
Economy
program.
economy, which I think is a mirage, but anyway. But anyway, it's a lot will be dependent on my friend.
We're having a dispassionate conversation.
I know.
No, I'm just reminding you. I'm just reminding you. Dispassionate.
He also said a lot of things. Right? And it's still dispassionate. And this is my friend.
I hear you.
Okay?
I hear you, boss.
And let me throw this in. Even our fathers were classmates then.
Okay.
In London, in the University of London, when they were studying.
Oh, that's how close the two of you are.
That's yes,
Oh,
but it's not like I'm close with her.
Yeah,
but there are a lot of
I get it.
connections. All right, yes, and so it seems to be expanded, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now we have
Agribusiness,
agribusiness
Yes.
and industry.
Yes.
So there's a lot, Liz. There's a lot on your plate. So my advice is work with those who you meet there in the ministry.
Okay.
So they do you good. And we want you to rise. We want you to, a few of the women, I think President Mahama has appointed women. President Nana Akufo-Addo also appointed women and is furthering that. And this is a very important ministry that, Liz, you are going into. I wish you all the best for your veteran and do well for Madagascar in terms of agribusiness. I think if we are able to, boost our agribusiness industry, I think Ghana will do well.
Okay.
All right. And industry. We haven't really helped our manufacturing sector in Ghana.
Okay.
We all have foreign entities doing the manufacturing business, but we should build this. And so, Liz, the ball is in your court, and I think you do well. Education. Haruna was our NUCS president when we were on campus. I was in KNUST, he was in Legon. I think Haruna has become an enigma.
Right.
All right. Haruna was sent to communications, he did well. Was sent to trade, yeah, he did well. Then he was sent to a very difficult ministry.
Employment.
Labor.
Employment and labor.
And there's always agitations. Always agitations. And so they'll be agitated, maybe hold the media landscape for about 2-3 weeks or maybe 2 months. Then finally they go into caucus with Haruna. They see them coming out to Haruna, chatting, this. And that should tell you the mettle of Haruna. And so I think he will do well. But you should know that there's been 2 ministers of education. Napo was able to deliver on a free SHS. Then
Yawde Doc.
Yes. Doc, what's his name?
It was just the outgone Dr. Yawde Chum.
Yawde.
Yes.
The standard these 2 have set. It's a very high standard. Very, very high standard. He must at least meet that, which is a Hegelian tax. But knowing Haruna, as I said, he should be able to live that.
Okay.
Jifa, you said a lot about Jifa. I think for the most part I heard Jifa, where it became a topical issue in the media space, was slightly more political. All right? And so tourism is a big thing. It's becoming even bigger now. And so I think she should work with the people and try.
Creative arts.
Creative arts, yes. No, it's Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Creative Arts. Yes.
Creative arts, yes.
So,
yes.
so the culture aspect, I think we've downplayed it. But all of, you see, I'm a Kumasi person. And you cannot, I mean, Kumasi is a cultural capital of Ghana, all right? But you see all the other groupies also, seize upon that opportunity to do, to boost up their culture, all right? Now all of us in court, boardrooms, we wear our beads. Why? Because we boosted that. Cape Coast will organize their festival, invite Utu for himself to come. I think the guys also did that and inviting. So you should look at that aspect too and boost our culture.
It's actually a big economy.
It's a big thing.
It's a big economy.
Big thing.
Yeah,
and when it's tied in with those, when we have, and you shouldn't drop this return concept.
Okay.
And tie that in with all those cultural activities, the Fetu Afashe, the Hubetotoze,
Panafest.
yes, and all that, build it around that. Because a lot of people travel outside. It's a tourism and culture thing that they've built up. Number one, roads. I have issues with Kwame Govins. I think, and I don't think it's fundamental. I don't think it's really a big issue. But he should watch how he does his things. I think by nature, he's animated. He's an animated person. So when he communicates, and the very nature of his voice is very high-toned. So when he's communicating, it sounds adversarial. Okay.
And alarming sometimes.
And alarming, exactly. And as I said, anything populist, we should drop it. So that you are seen as a solid person who delivers.
Okay.
I think his background is in either
he's an architect.
Engineering or architect.
Yeah, he's an architect.
Architect.
Yeah, he's an architect.
So he's suited in terms of knowledge of the industry.
Right.
And roads, there's
I recall
always
at the time when you were Roads and Highways Minister, this issue that came up about over bloated cost of infrastructure projects. The MPP kept hammering on that. And the person who was at the forefront of fighting it off, I recall, was Governor Zagoja. Because he kept saying that, look, I'm an architect and I know that this one has not been, the cost has not been over bloated. I mean, he was like one man.
And then this guy who was asked out by Akufo-Addo, that engineer, Kumasi, member of parliament.
Okay.
Aduomi.
Yeah. I mean, they came to your defense.
Yes.
Seriously, they came
Aduomi.
very strongly.
And a road and highways ministry is like education.
Yeah.
It's always there's one controversial issue or the other.
Okay, Kingsley.
The type of our roads.
Okay.
If he doesn't, the composure is not there, he would emotionally flip.
Okay.
One forward with a better expression, and he won't do good. So you should watch his animated nature and be rather both feet on the ground so that he has that gravitas.
Right.
It's all about optics as well.
Right.
And there always going to be unpaid people who have done their roads, people who have done a shoddy. We had a drip system. I don't know what he's going to do about the drip system, which is very good for us. And so if he doesn't calm himself down, that's going to happen. Before, I think I've been mentioning one by one. Let me add one more.
Okay. If I want to talk about animated, it reminded me of Kwesi Amakwata. and you don't do the road. You are here. Shut up. You know. I was like, hey, this man.
You see.
Hey,
people think.
Kwesi Amakwata.
People think.
Whoa.
We have had a groundbreaking defeat, electoral defeat. And so we're going to keep quiet.
Yeah.
But you have seen our people in parliament.
Right.
And so
very
we'll
vocal.
come at him.
Okay.
We are coming at you.
I hear you.
So maintain your composure and deliver. We're not going to do the animated things you do in parliament. Then you are in opposition.
Okay.
So it's understandable. But now it's not about what you say, what you do.
Okay.
And you have a lot to do,
right.
Mr. Govins.
Okay. So
besides that, I wish you well. Ashanti region.
Yeah.
Ashanti regional.
We have to take a break.
Minister. Okay. But when you come back, am I going to continue?
You will just land. Because I want us to look at Operation Recover or Loot.
Okay.
A lot of issues have come up. We have, I think, 40 minutes or so to look at that. So let's come back after the break so you can land and land properly. Because our video just crash land. We'll take a short break. This is Good Morning Ghana.
Guys, So, I got this app. It's called Ayoba. It's a chat app that helps me with beauty tips and cooking tips. A super app that feeds me music and the latest sports content. I even use it for my studies. And the good news is, I don't need to use my data bundle because I'm on MTN. Charlie, the app just did be.
Ayoba, the all-in-one app that lets you chat, call, read, play, pay, and listen. Use Ayoba at no data cost on MTN. Download Ayoba now.
Who are you? Who are you? Charlie, I'll be you from the future. Who doesn't sleep on that slice of bread you call mattress anymore? Don some slippers, then follow me.
You destroy the mattress we did the front there.
Yeah?
That be the mattress where the dead for time.
Wait, what are you doing? Wow! No damage at all. Not only durable, but also super comfortable. Come on, try it.
Nothing day like Ash Foam. Enjoy full body support and unparalleled comfort for a restful sleep.
Don't forget your keys.
Get the premium sleep experience with mattresses from Ash Foam. Visit any of our showrooms nationwide or at ashfoam.com.
Attention all farmers. Are you ready to take your crops to the next level? Introducing 3 effective organic composts that will revolutionize your farming practices. ACAP, KCAP and Iricop brings to you the ultimate solution for your fertilizer needs. Introducing the ACAP Grade A, KCAP Equiafua Jinkwa and the Iricop with cocoa blends, palm blend and mulch. These are made from locally sourced municipal solid waste. And these are the perfect choice for sustainable farming. Join the organic revolution today. Boost your crop yield, improve soil health, and support sustainable farming practices. Choose ACAP, KCAP, and Iricop organic compost for a greener and bountiful harvest. For your purchase and more information, call the numbers on your screen. Our products are endorsed by COCOBOD, Planting for Food and Jobs, and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture.
Ghana Post. Hey, Nano Fayo Kwanya, one Kasakasa, welcome, who say, and you're my brother, Mr. Happiness, and Hame. Missy, who said Ghana Post, I am fast, reliable, and affordable. See, now say, the Numa, a Janya Kumami, and the command, or if I Ghana Post, we're dinning now. And it's a Saswan Masakodija, Medical Ghana Post to you. Wait, Kobe Kakra. Ghana Post,
the most affordable delivery option for food and merchandise from Ghana to everywhere in the world. Connect with us today and see for yourself. Ghana Post, smart, secure deliveries.
Mensa coming package, in less than 5 days. Ghana Post, they make life they big. Ghana Post will deliver to you wherever you are in the world.
This is Coastal Park, a well-demarcated gated community carved out to host your residential and commercial properties. With a minimum of 40,000 Ghana cedis, you too can own a piece of this serene site.
It's just 50 minutes drive from the Central University College, as well as just some 5 minutes drive from the Ningo Senior High School. More so, just in case you live somewhere in Adam and you want to take that excursion to many of those areas along the Volta estuary, this is the right property for you to invest in.
Great news from Estate Masters Limited. We're running a 10% discount promo on all sites to celebrate our 10th year anniversary. Join in the celebration by becoming an Estate Master. Enjoy benefits such as free site visits throughout the duration, free indenture, and free site plan. Contact us for more information. Remember, T's and C's apply. Estate Masters Limited, your most preferred estate partner.
Great music. Excellent service. Great company. And meats galore. The Alisa Friday Barbecue. It's fun on Fridays at Alisa.
All right, welcome back. This is Good Morning Ghana on Metro Television. We've been having a very long conversation assessing the appointments that have been made by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. My colleagues or my guests have been taking a critical look at those names, and we spent quite a considerable amount of time on that. Kingsley, I'll beg you, if you can just use 2 minutes to land. So that
I would do that.
Yeah, because
We'll
we
do
spent
that. And
almost
even-
1.5 hours.
Even the advert has taken a lot of ideas.
No,
out
it
of
was
what I
it's
was-
just,
But anyway,
it's just 3 minutes.
But anyway,
That verse was just
two
3
things.
minutes.
Two
Kingsley,
things. You're actually taking my time. But what I did.
Please go ahead.
Two things. Ashanti region. I think Ashanti region is a different. I don't want to use the phrase kettle of fish, but whoever is a minister there must know a lot of the traditional setup.
Right.
All right. And know the weight of the authority of the golden stool and the occupant of the golden stool. And also be able to deal with a lot of trade issues because Ashantis are by nature traders and business owners. And so you need to understand that. And then you need your emotional and adversity quotient to be very high. I was thinking, my friend, and I know him, was also my classmate at Prempeh College, Andy Okra was going to Ashanti region because he was a deputy. And he's fairly old and he's a proper Kumasi guy. I know, I'm hearing that the young man coming is
Dr.
a medical doctor.
He's a medical doctor, yes.
And he's also a Kumasi person. So all the best to him. I'm thinking you have a lot to do.
Okay.
Forget about the age. Age is not a factor.
Right.
When President Kufuor was running KMA, he was much younger than you are. So, but you have a lot to learn because, and this is when NDC, your government, is trying to get more votes from Ashanti region.
Right.
So you have a lot to deliver.
Okay.
Then, in terms of merging some of the ministries, I think we should look at the position of the regional minister vis-a-vis the local minister of local
government.
No, local something, isn't it? It's local government, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's local government.
Yes. We should look at that and look at which one we're dropping. I think
It's local
NDC
government, chieftaincy, and religious affairs.
Yes. I think NDC is heavy on local government because it was a baby of Kwame Ahoy, I think.
That's true, Professor Kwame Ahoy, yes.
Yes, I think. But then I think the local governor, government minister, and the regional minister, I think there are some clashes.
Yes.
So
this matter has come up several times.
Yeah, so they should look at
I mean,
that.
for instance, who does the MCDC report to?
They should report to the local.
To the regional minister?
No.
Or the local government minister?
Yes. But because the regional minister is also political,
yes,
and theirs is also political,
yes,
they find themselves reporting to the minister.
Right.
Especially in security issues. Because remember, there's a RegSec, there's MUSEC, there's ISEC.
Okay.
And so if he wanted to drop one of the ministries, he should have streamlined, you know, the regional ministers vis-a-vis the local, because I doubt if they will get rid of the local minister, local government minister.
All right.
I think there's a lot more to be said.
But time. Otherwise, we're going to spend the whole day talking about this. But here's the thing. But it's a conversation that honestly, at some point, Honourable, we would have to have in terms of the dual reporting lines and the conflicting nature of it, and how sometimes that affects the whole local governance architecture. But it's something that we need to talk about. But let's look at oral. Because you have already been advising and warning your former appointees not to respond to any invitation by the oral team.
I think they should rather...
Yes, I'll come to Honorable Yunus Hussaini.
But not me first. I think you should go to it.
I think you start. And the story here has been captured by the Ghanaian publisher. It says the minority in parliament has urged former appointees of the Akufo-Addo-led administration not to honor invitations from the oral, that's Operation Recover or Loot oral committee. The committee, they said, lacks the legal mandate to investigate corruption-related offences. Addressing a press conference in Parliament on Wednesday, January 15, 2025, the minority expressed concerns about the legitimacy and intentions of oral. They described the committee as a politically motivated entity formed to persecute former MPP government officials. The Member of Parliament for Swami, Honourable John Daku, who spoke on the matter, emphasized that the legally mandated institutions already exist to handle corruption investigations, making oral redundant. He says when the former government officials have done is to acquire properties that legally they could acquire. No illegality has taken place, he stated. Defending the acquisition of properties by former appointees. The minority further questioned the motives of the NDC, claiming that their constitutionally established bodies such as the Police, Criminal Investigations Department, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, YOCO, and the Office of the Special Prosecutor already serve the purpose of investigating alleged wrongdoings. So, Honourable.
Yes.
Why is oral going around inviting people and harassing people in the name of gathering information and data, according to what the minority has said?
Oral has not invited anybody. Oral has not harassed anybody. All of us, as dutiful citizens of this country, have a responsibility to cooperate with Oral. Sitting here, I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that presently I do not hold any position in government, but I have received many telephone calls signaling or pointing to some impropriety by previous government officials, which information I have passed on to Oral for the preliminary investigations. So we all have a duty. I mean, again, how did Oral come about? Oral is a product of the level of malfeasance, corruption, looting, and thievery, if you want, recklessness, wastage in the system that characterized the government of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And so clearly, something ought to have been done about it. I mean, many people called on Nana Akufo-Addo to deal with the levels of corruption in his government. Indeed, it didn't come to us as surprising that when the anti-corruption agencies said that the government was corrupt because for so many years the corruption perception index, our performance on the corruption perception index stagnated at about 43%. So clearly, this is a product of the manifestation of the rot in the system. So NDC addressed that, and captured it in our manifesto, and particularly chapter 6 of our manifesto that deals with governance. And so if you look at page 136 of the manifesto, you will find oral. Oral is one of the promises the NDC made to the people of this country, and the president is intent on delivering on the promise. I've heard many people say that oral is unlawful. Oral is an information evidence gathering platform.
Simplicity.
Simplicity. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing illegal about that. Now, let's go to the Constitution. And particularly, Article 286 of the Constitution and 2864. And for the purposes of your
viewers,
I will read in verbatim what the article says. It says, any property or assets acquired by a public officer after the initial declaration. This is the conduct of Code of Conduct for public officers.
Yeah.
And it deals with assets.
Which article again?
Article 286.
Article 286 of the Constitution.
Clause 4.
Clause 4. Okay, 286 clause 4.
Deals with declaration of assets.
Okay.
After the initial declaration required by clause 1 of this article, and which is not reasonably attributable to income, gift, loan, inheritance, or any other reasonable source, shall be deemed, so on the face of it, on the face of the acquisition,
prima facie,
shall be deemed to have been acquired in contravention of the Constitution.
Okay.
So the Constitution says unexplained wealth. So that's the unexplained wealth provision.
Okay.
Tell me, so if Moro, you know a former government appointee who has acquired wealth by virtue of the occupation of a public office, what platform is available to you to report? Now, so we have the Whistleblowers Act of 2006, Act 720. It says that, it's about the disclosures. It says when you see a public officer or anybody who has come into immediate wealth, which wealth you have reasons to believe has been acquired improperly, you have a duty
to blow the whistle on the
person. Now, to who do you blow the whistle? So you go to section 3(1)(p), and it says you can blow the whistle to the president. Now the president says, okay, so if you have that information, I'm setting up a committee. Send the information to that committee on my behalf. It will get to me. How is that unlawful?
Right.
How is that unlawful? I mean, I think that the people are not reading the laws and connecting the dots. The president is one entity under section 3 of the Whistleblowers Act to whom you can make a disclosure. And the president is not an ordinary man sitting in an office. Yeah. So he says, okay, yes. And so far, more than 700 petitions. I see what the president has done, the establishment of oral, as the boldest step so far in fighting corruption. And if Bawumia was coming with bold solutions, this is one bold solution, enabling the people, empowering the people to make disclosures. Look, the Whistleblowers Act, as amended, says there must be a fund that if a recovery is made, those persons who are blown or disclosed are to be rewarded.
So that's the Whistleblowers Act. It was
yes.
just displayed on the screen.
Yes, are to be rewarded. But in this case, public-spirited persons who simply believe that a lot of corruption, a lot of looting has gone on in this country, are electing to make these disclosures available to the committee without even invoking the provisions of the Whistleblowers Act. They just want the loot recovered. And people are jumping heads over tails to say that it's illegal. Can that be illegal? How? In my view, the oral is founded on the Constitution because people have reasons to believe that persons who were given opportunity to serve this country abused their offices and expropriated public resources for their own benefit. The Constitution frowns upon it. If it is witch hunting, it is the Constitution which is witch hunting these people. Because the Constitution says there's a presumption of
innocence.
Malfeasance.
Oh, malfeasance, okay.
Immediately, your assets are more than what you declared.
Your income.
There's a presumption of culpability.
Yeah.
So you have to come to show how you got. That's why the Constitution sets out the parameters. Can you attribute it to salary, your income? Can you attribute it to your gift? Is it a loan? Is it inheritance? If it cannot, so
you have questions to answer.
You have questions to answer. So what is illegal about that? Thirdly, my brother, oral has come to say, look, we gathering this evidence. When we finish gathering the evidence, we are sending the evidence to the Attorney General. So we're sending it to the President, who will then send it to the Attorney General's office. And we are lawyers. Forum convenience. You want to recover loot. Is it by court? Is it through the Internal Revenue Authority? Is it organized crime, Yoko? The Attorney General will have to determine the forum convenience. In fact, the Attorney General will conduct further investigations to establish a prima facie case before it refers. Is it the Office of the Special Prosecutor?
The appropriate institution. Agency, to deal with it.
No, some people have simply looted the state by not paying the requisite taxes, even though they are engaged in lawful commercial transactions. So, if information reaches oral that some people have imported tons and tons of goods into this country without paying the requisite tax, that is money laundering. Is it the revenue authorities or is it IOCO? Now, I will think that, well, if that information comes, it's tax that they have not paid. And tax avoidance is an offense.
Yeah.
So, what did they do? You refer them to the tax authorities. And if it was done deliberately with the connivance of public servants who benefited from it, then that becomes a matter for prosecution. But the forum convenience will be to send them to the tax authorities to see whether, because you are going to recover. If you fail to pay the requisite tax to government, even though you are doing lawful commercial activities, you have looted the state. Now, if it is organized crime, you got people and they were going around the country selling public lands and pocketing the money, because the land is held in trust for the people of this country. You might want the Economic and Organized Crime Office to look at it. Say, why did they repeatedly commit those crimes. But oral must gather the evidence to satisfy the government, the president, and the attorney general that there has been systematic looting or commission of a crime which ought to be investigated. And that's a platform.
Okay.
It is a platform.
I think you've simplified it.
Yeah, it's a platform.
And you've made it very clear.
It's a platform.
I don't know that you
They don't have they don't have prosecutorial powers.
No, they don't.
No, it's just the president and the Constitution.
Yeah.
Constitution, Article 58. Article 58 of the Constitution. And let's read it for our...
Article 58.
Of the Constitution, and particularly Article 58 too.
Okay.
So that people to know that if the Whistleblowers Act says you can disclose acts of malfeasance to the president can establish a committee to receive. So, Article 58(1), the executive authority of Ghana shall vest in the president and shall be exercised in accordance with the provisions of this constitution.
Yeah.
The executive authority of Ghana shall extend to the execution and maintenance of this constitution and all laws made or continued in force by the constitution. So, the Whistleblowers Act is a law made under this constitution.
Right.
Subject to the provisions of this constitution, the functions conferred on the president by clause 1 of this article may be exercised by him, the president, either directly or through officers subordinate to him.
Right.
So you can go Whistleblowers Act, you can disclose that directly to the president or through officers subordinate to him. Who are the officers? The 5-member committee are subordinate to the president because he put them in place.
Okay.
So I don't know why they think that.
No issue.
And these are lawyers who are arguing this way.
Yeah.
They have not read the Constitution.
Okay.
They have not read the Whistleblowers Act.
All right.
Or simply, and then let me deal with. Just a few things.
I beg
just
you.
a few.
Honorable.
So the Courts Act.
We have just 5 minutes.
It's the Courts Act that amended the lower courts, and then lower courts are a creature of statute.
Yes.
So if you want to bring the community tribunal system, you just need, and it is the Courts Act that repealed the circuit tribunals and district tribunals.
Yes.
So if you come back with a law to amend the Courts Act and insert community tribunals,
Yes.
and because it's a creature of statute,
Right.
then juror system. I mean, you say that because the 2 other panel members are not lawyers.
All right.
Jurors are not lawyers, but they are trials of fact.
Honorable, because of time.
Jurors are not lawyers, but they are trials of fact.
We would have a whole.
The police, you know the prosecutor,
Yes.
he mentioned it.
Yes.
Are they lawyers?
Yes.
They prosecute by fiat because we don't have lawyers.
That's fine.
Lastly, you have mentioned how many courts the Akufo-Addo administration has established. I started practicing long ago. Courts, the establishment of courts are a function of population.
Okay, that's true. That's true.
If at the time I was practicing, Adenta had no. How many people were there?
So what are you talking about? Courts or oral?
No, I said I'm just replying to you.
It's not with oral. Let me get these thoughts on oral.
Let me come and deal with
I
oral.
beg you.
All right. I think when one, and that's the NDC's problem, the problem is that people so much and build a picture of loot, public loot, and so they must be seen to be doing something. And so they've hurriedly, what you see, when you have this pressure at your back, you can't even wait for when you have the authority, the requisite authority. The president rushed in setting up this. So even on the letter it says the president-elect. I never knew there's a letterhead called the president-elect letterhead. It should be the office of the president, is that not so? Then you have the state powers to now constitute a body. It was constituted before His Excellency Mahama was sworn in. He had no power. So those people
doesn't he draw his powers from the presidential?
But he wasn't the president. But he was transitional. There's nowhere that says that he is empaneled to empower to set up a committee. Where is the Transitional Act? I don't see that.
Okay.
I don't see that.
Okay.
He has no power. You are not a president. You have no executive power.
I get that.
Why do you go and set up this? And then you clothe them with the powers where now they don't even know where their remit lies, and they are now justifying issues just because they must please the public. Justifying issues. And I like how he even set the tone to say that the previous government's public officers had looted and therefore he set this up. We have said all over that this was set up as a witch hunting activity. He did not say that it was only the previous government. Corruption. I read this newspaper news cartoon where Prime Minister Buzia was talking about corruption. Where in Nkrumah's time, there were corruption. So, and you have only limited it to the public officers of the previous government. Is it not witch hunting? Are they the only persons who have the penchant of engaging in corruption? Now let's look into it.
Yeah, but the public the public is not stooped from precisely the orality with
but you have premised it with only public the public officers of Nando's government.
Oh no, they haven't said that.
That's what he said. Please. He said there was a lot of looting in the previous government, and so they set this up. That's the premise. That's the premise. Where we have a lot of cases going on in court where people, even when President Mahama was in power, are in court. So why do you limit it? And then, now that we hurriedly went to set it up, we are looking for the law to back it up. And guess what? We have gone for Whistleblowers Act. My friend Martin Pebu should stop this.
All right.
We should stop this. Let's look at this. Let's look at this.
Let me do this.
Let's look at it. Let's know. Yes, it's my time. You gave me about a lot of time. That's my time.
Yeah, several.
Exactly. It's my time. You see? Let's look at your section 3. It talks about the people who disclosure of impropriety must be reported to.
Yes.
All right? But even then, in your analysis, you're talking about a public officer. Now they have extended it to politically exposed persons. Is a politically exposed person a public officer? No! A big emphatic no. Let's come here. Disclosure of impropriety may be made to the following. A long list which includes the chief head of family and all that. Now let's go to 2. Subsection 2, right? 3.1 is the list. 2. It says a whistleblower may take into account a reasonable belief or fear on the part of the whistleblower that the whistleblower may be subject to dismissal, suspension, harassment. Is that what we are saying? Are the whistleblowers, are they being protected? One day, and a member of the community came to sit on your sister or another media house and publicly said that someone has said that he's brought a land that he illegally acquired, and so you are not going after him. Is that what the whistleblower says? Let's go to section 6. Action by a person who received a disclosure. Standards are there. When a disclosure of impropriety is made to a person specified in section 3, why are they struggling to bring themselves into that? Then they must comply. And make a record of the time and place where the disclosure is made. Give to the whistleblower an acknowledgement written receipt. Keep the written receipt in which the disclosure is made confidential. Was that confidential? Then it comes to 3. So 6, subsection 3. Where a person to whom a disclosure is made fails to keep confidential the disclosure, the person commits an offense. Are they trying to make themselves liable to this, commit an offense, and are liable to a summary conviction of a fine not less than 500 penalty points, no more than 1,000 penalty points? Martin people, or some of them are rich, so they can pay 12,000. Then it says 7. Where disclosure is made to a person specified under section 3, other than the Attorney General, the person shall submit a copy of the written disclosure to the Attorney General. To the Attorney General.
Yes.
not the president, the Attorney General. Within 7 days, I've not done more than 7 days. What has been submitted to Attorney General? There's not even an Attorney General to begin with, because no one has been sworn in. So why are they struggling to find a legal basis, and then they wait for this? And I'm sure when you go through, and it's just a casual look of me looking at this Whistleblowers Act, I see a lot of things. A lot of things. So it is not applicable. Not applicable. We should stop this populist thing. There are a lot of institutions set up in Ghana, a lot of them set up in Ghana to deal with issues. Retool them, resource them. Even when the OSP was being set up, we said, oh, it's a replication of authorities and resources. Okay. If we feel that he must do that job, retool it. If anyone can collect information. Now you have members of this so-called oral turning up on the doorsteps of people and say that we are coming here as if they are investigating. They are actually investigating and say we are observing. Who are we telling this lie to?
Okay.
That you have the power to enter someone's private property and trespass? Well, let's be serious here. Let's stop the populist attitude of this and resource
I know time is up. I know Inusa Husseini will say something, but what I can tell you is that we've had this conversation time and again. What we're told is that ORA has not mandated or asked anybody to go and trespass somebody's property and so on. So if the person is doing it,
police with ammunitions strung on their chest. Can you imagine this?
I want to thank Chair Kingsley Amwakwa Bwedu, private legal practitioner and also member of the MPP's legal directorate. I also want to say a big thanks to Honorable Inusa Husseini, who is a former MP for Tamale Central and also a former Roads and Highways Minister and a former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. I want to say a big thanks to also Marco Jobafu. I've seen your message, fantastic one. My name is Al Tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Juma Mubarak. Bye-bye.
Again